So let's begin with that ending, because what a place to start. I mean, that long, unbroken shot of Timothy's face. I want to hear from Luca. Yes, absolutely. It's quite the thing to end with, and to know that you could end with that, you know, sort of in lieu of the epilogue that's in the book. I want to hear from Luca how you had the confidence to do that, and I want to hear from Timothy, what was it like that day that you shot it?
I think while we were prepping the movie, we reviewed the script. We prepared the script to be the shooting script. And I remember that the ending, as it was written before, I just took off and I wrote like our phrase, like Elio sits in front of the fire and thinks of his life. Mm-hmm. So that was the phrase. And then when we started shooting the movie, to experience the astonishing performance of Elio, or of Timothy actually, growing every day after day, we shot in sequence almost from the beginning to the end. I was like looking forward to that moment. Yeah.
Timothy, were you looking forward to it?
Yeah, I was. There would have been a certain anxiety about doing that scene had it been in the working script, or the script that I had been studying and working on in the month and a half leading up to the film, because it would have just been very daunting, the idea of a long shot that's that intimate or a close-up like that. But as Luca alluded to, it was added very close to the beginning of the production, so there wasn't very much of an awareness that it was going to be that intimate. And then we just did 3 takes, and Luca gave me different qualities or ideas to do for different takes. And
I said dry, semi-dry, wet.
Yeah, that's true.
And you used wet?
No, I think
semi-dry?
No, that's semi-dry.
There's
a maniacal take in there. I gave the same
instruction to Michael also for the previous scene.
Yeah. So and when it came time to doing it, it was.
We also had the privilege of receiving those beautiful songs from Sufjan Stevens early on. So we had listened to the songs, and we played the song for 1 take. I remember something like.
Yeah, I had for the take that's actually in the film, I had a little earpiece that was playing the song that's playing over the credits. So there's a certain structure to that song. There's a certain bridge. So to have it playing was a tremendous help, because there was, like I said, there's a certain narrative to that song.
Armie, you're playing a character who has so much confidence, or at least is able to project that. What did you find underneath that facade that made Oliver interesting to dig into?
Oceans. There's something about the character of Oliver, whether it be the way he says later, whether it be the sort of confidence he projects, all that stuff that on the surface is sort of very easy to go, oh, this guy's great, he's got it all together, he's super confident, he knows who he is, he knows all this stuff. But in reality, he's terrified. Yeah, in every later that he says, for me anyway, it wasn't about, all right, well, I'm done with this conversation, see you later. It was more, the longer I sit here, the more I'm forced to acknowledge something that makes me uncomfortable, and it's the fact that there is something here between us, and that scares me, because I don't know what that is, I don't know what's going on, and it was all sort of summed up in the conversation that he had with Elio on the phone at the end, where he says, you're so lucky that your dad is the way he is, because mine would have carted me off to a correctional facility. And you see that for all of the confidence that he projects, it's really a smokescreen for someone who's unable to come to terms and be honest with himself. It's really interesting that Elio, and I don't want to put words in Timmy's mouth, but like, Elio was the one who said, this is real. I'm willing to acknowledge this. We have something here. And Oliver is the one who couldn't bring himself to do that. So he had to cover. There was a lot underneath that was in turmoil and a fight against himself almost. So all of that confidence was really to assuage everyone else around him to think he's really got it all together. He's got his shit together, when in reality, none of us do.
Michael, that scene that you have with Timothy near the end of the movie, I mean, that is an all-timer. And take me through your journey with it. What was it like first when you read it on the page?
I had been warned about it by my agent.
What was the warning?
The warning was there's something really beautiful at the end of this script. Enjoy it, the journey to get there. But it was, you know, taken directly from the novel, which I didn't know. He got to say some really beautiful things, and I jumped at the opportunity to be able to speak them. As was mentioned earlier, we shot somewhat in sequence, so I had at least what seemed like almost 5 to 6 weeks, if not longer, to live with that text and to watch them do their thing. And it grew within me and changed and became just something I would revisit often in my own private time. And on the day when we did it, I was ready to let it go. And that's what happened.
It's such an intimate scene that I think, I'm sure the audience agrees, it feels like you're in the room with you. But Timothy, you actually were in the room with Michael. What's it like to act opposite someone giving this monologue?
Well, I'm really like a theater kid. That's really where I come from, and my family's a stage family, and I grew up in New York, and you know, Michael is a titan of Broadway theater in New York, and I had seen him in a production when I was maybe 12 years old of The Pillow Man by Martin McDonough, and you know, when I heard that Michael was going to be a part of this project, the idea in my head was always steer clear, you know, let the master go to work. And certainly that scene is very much Mr. Perlman's scene by way of alleviating Elio's existential crisis of sorts, but it's very much his scene. So I remember being upstairs in the villa looking at it before and just thinking, and I think we started with your coverage first, I think, and thinking, yeah, I want to be as little of a problem as possible.
Luca, what had you seen in these three actors that made you think of them for these roles?
Well, I knew I've been attached to the movie as a producer for long, and during the journey of trying to make this movie happen with different incarnations, different directors, I've been introduced to Timothy by his agent, Brian Swarstrom, and I remember I think we had a lunch or something.
We had a lunch at Trump Tower, weirdly enough.
Who picked the location?
Let's not name the name. Anyway, I did it. And I immediately realized that Timothy was Elio. Not that because he's like Elio, but because the intelligence of Timothy was perfect for the complexity of the role. So once I became the director, for me it was no-brainer, Timothy. And Armie and I, we met 7 years ago when I was here to promote I Am Love, and I saw you in the social network, and I've been a big fan since then. So for me, it's like my passions, like Michael. I'm a big fan. So when you have something to be approached by you for something you have to do, it's fantastic.
I just want to say something real quick about our meeting. I went and had a wonderful afternoon with Luca. I went to his place, and we sat for hours and talked about literature and art and film and everything. And it was just one of these beautiful, beautiful conversations. And I walked out of it and I was like, I fucking nailed that meeting. And didn't hear anything from him for about 6.5 years.
But to my defense, I did only one movie before this that was a bigger splash.
I want to talk about one of your favorite scenes, the dance scene, because you were telling me that you actually drew a whole lot from Timothy in order to sort of sack up and have the nonchalance you needed for that scene. Talk about that.
That was the worst scene I've ever filmed in my life. I don't know if anybody here has ever done a dance scene in a film, but there's no music. You get a click track, and then you get a whole crew watching you, bored, because they're only listening to a click track, and then you've got all the background and everybody also watching you, and it's dead silent, and you're just like jumping around going, I feel like a total idiot. And but that was me, and that was the sort of derivation I had to sort of come to, was that this is me and I hate this, but so much of what Oliver is experiencing in this moment is what makes Oliver kind of beautiful, is that he can be completely in his body and just be free and just let himself go and enjoy this moment. And that's the biggest challenge I've ever had as an actor.
I want you guys to maybe talk about what sort of environment Luca fosters on that set where you feel safe enough to give performances that are this exposed.
Well, it begins with Frenesy, which is the production company that the logo runs before the movie, and that's Luca's production company. And correct me if I'm wrong, but from the makeup team to the producers to the editor, these are all people that Luca's been working with for 20 years, 30 years. So you're stepping into like a factory, you're stepping into a family. So there's already that environment that's conducive to trusting the circumstances. Almost from a crass level, Luca's movies visually, if people have seen A Bigger Splash or I Am Love or any other ones, are just so nice to look at. There wasn't an anxiety that it was ever going to look salacious or exploitative. And lastly, it comes down to your dance partners. And between Armie and Michael and Esther Gael, who plays Marcia, and Amira Kazar, I always felt like I was in the best of hands. And so it didn't feel like much of a leap. It felt like one forgot the camera was there, almost.
Yeah, let's talk about Esther and Amira, who are a crucial part of this movie. Michael, what was it like to sort of have Amira, who plays your wife, as a sort of a partner in this?
She was my other half, and the essential other half. I mean, you really got a sense between the two of us where this guy came from, you know? She supplied things I would never be able to supply, and hopefully I was able to balance out with a different kind of energy for her. She was, a fierce partner to work with, and a remarkable mind, and just completely game for everything. Had a great sense of humor. We laughed a lot. And yeah, it was, an absolute, it felt like we were part of a team that influenced who Elio was. And that was wonderful.
For me, one of the joy of my work is to see the ensemble unroll. After 1 week, it was really the Perlmans. I was thinking about them, about the Perlmans. It was fantastic. And the interaction of these very different actors together from America, France, Iran. It was Crema. It was extraordinary for me. That was really beautiful. We had also people that were not actors showing up and playing roles.
Before I open it up to questions, one last one of you guys, of Timothy and Armie. Armie, you recently read the audiobook for this, which is in the first person. It's from Elio's point of view. So I'm curious, Timothy, have you listened to it? Was it interesting to hear your character from Armie's point of view?
Wow. Well, there was something where they put out a preview online. So there was a clip, and I think they put out the last page of the book online, and it was amazing. We haven't talked about this, but Armie was infusing also Elio's lines with such emotion, and all the feedback. I was reading the stuff. I guess you never should read the stuff, but I was reading it, and people were moved just by the audio and the way Armie was playing it in the audio. So. I don't know what the experience was like, because it is a fiercely first-person narrative that rarely takes Oliver's point of view, if ever. It was.
It was really interesting for me because I spent the entire shooting experience in the sort of headspace of Oliver, and like you said, the book is written from such a first-person perspective. I mean, it's really the interlocution of Elio. It's his thoughts, it's his emotional reactions to everything. And it's interesting, as an actor, the source material that we had of Andre's book is incredible. Anybody who hasn't read the book, you should go read it. It's truly an amazing piece of literature. But it's from the really most private and innermost perspective of one person that I've ever seen a book be written, to the point where I couldn't trust it to base anything on my character off of. Because if Oliver came downstairs in the morning and said hello to Elio, then he's the greatest. He's the nicest, like, oh, what a wonderful person. And if he came downstairs and just walked out the door without saying hello to anybody, then he was an asshole. Like I hate him. Like I never want to see him again, because it's this tumult of a man discovering his emotional life. So to go and read the book and put myself in the shoes that Timmy had assumed was a really interesting perspective. And I can't really imagine getting that chance ever again to live on one side of the coin and then go and live on the other in such a drastic way. It was really amazing for me, but more than that, every page that I read took me right back to Crema and took me right back to memories that I'd forgotten or, put away. And it was, every time I walked out, I called these guys and I was like, I miss you guys so much.
All right, well, let's hear from all of you.
It was a really kind of daunting idea to take this on, not because it was two men or anything like that. I mean, I would like to think that I'm beyond having to worry about that or anything like that. It was daunting for me as an actor to take this on because there's nothing to hide behind. There was no special effects, there was no big set pieces. This movie, as I saw it, kind of lived and died on the emotional connection between these two people. And to put yourself into that position as an actor where you have to come to terms with the fact that you have to make yourself completely emotionally vulnerable and honest in front of a camera, in front of a crew, in front of all this. I didn't think that I had the chops to kind of pull this off. Like, I don't know if I can have this kind of honest relationship with anybody on film. It's really kind of a scary idea to make yourself that emotionally vulnerable in any way. Fortunately, we had Luca to kind of guide us through this whole thing, and it was such a beautiful experience to capture the humanity of, no one paid for being gay in this movie. There was no antagonist. There was no one got sick. No one got beat up by rednecks. No one, nothing like that. It was just two people falling in love in a really honest way and organic way. And that's scary as an actor, because if it doesn't work, it really just doesn't work. And that was the big kind of fear for me. And it was just such a beautiful experience to get to play the humanity and the beauty of two people just falling in love. And that was the thing that initially really drew me to the project, but also terrified me about it.
Yeah, I guess the anxiety was never around the circumstance of the relationship or whatever the physical prescription was from scene to scene, because as Armie said, we were in the best of hands with Luca, and I just felt I wasn't scared about that, but rather it was really what your reaction would be, or anybody watching it, and the thought that, as Armie said, if any of this rings untrue, then the movie doesn't work. And if fans of the book or gay people see it and things ring untrue, then we've also failed. So it's interesting to hear the question back now, to hear you say, okay, well, how do we feel now hearing something like that? And the feeling is just tremendous, gratitude or something, and it's seeing people react so strongly to Michael's speech in the film, or the idea that many of us haven't had a father like that could say something so powerful, is beyond any of the wildest dreams we had when we were making it, or certainly for myself.
Yeah, Michael, I have to think that you've been getting such emotional reactions from audience members since January, since this premiered at Sundance. But like Timothy said, the father that you wish you could have, has that been the case?
Yeah. Yeah, and it's very humbling. I got to say some, remarkable things and remind us all how special it is when we feel something deeply, and not to push those feelings away. I mean, among many other things that I got to say, but how special that is. To remember that when you feel something deeply, that you own it in a very deep way, and to not push it away. No, it's, I'm so glad that people have responded to it.
I think it's about welcoming the other in its otherness. I think that if you are ready to become the other by the name, you are ready to be completely open to its otherness. And I think that's the basic of love, in a way, that you don't want to change the other. You want to welcome the otherness in the other.
And I know, Armie, you have thoughts about sort of who's brave in the scene and the movie.
I do. That it's. Do you want to take this one?
I was preparing something, so it's good. If there is a power switch, it's just that I think it's the universally relatable human experience that we've all shared, where there's that tremendous anxiety about wanting to reveal your sense of self to someone or the feelings you're feeling towards someone. And that switch is literally from, am I feeling this way? Do I think I'm feeling this way? Do I think I should say something about it? To, no, I have to say this. I have to say this. I really appreciate that question, because it first comes with the trust of the director and all the stuff that you don't see in the movie, where I'm doing things that are terrible and don't make any sense, but what has always turned me on as an audience member when I see coming-of-age films, or in particular sexual coming-of-age films, are moments of spontaneity and things where as an audience member you think, okay, there's no way they could have planned that. And like I said, I felt like I had the freedom on this movie with like takes like the last scene or one of the last scenes where I've just thrown up in the fountain and Armie and I share a very passionate kiss, and there was like a take where I slapped at the wall or something, or I punched at it before I kissed him, and Luca came running over. I was like, no, what are you doing? That doesn't make any sense here. This is the end of the movie. So, with that sense of protection, it frees you and it makes you look way better than you are as an actor, because those things that do seem spontaneous, which are, and like the scene you alluded to, I think the first take was really restrained. There's a weird ass second take when I was running around the bed and like tearing the sheets up, and the third one is the one that's in the film with the bathing suit on the head, which wasn't something that was necessarily in there each take. So I guess if I could give a succinct answer, it's really a trust for the director, in that if there are things that you're going to do that are, not preordained choices and are going to be spontaneous, you're not going to find yourself watching yourself in something where you're outlandish and really big or something.
Definitely the Wong Kar-wai is an unconscious homage. I didn't thought about it, but I know the movie very well. No, I think I like that waterfall. It's very special, and to go there, we had to hike for like an hour and a half, and there was a little stream of people. Every one of us was carrying a piece of the equipment to get there. It was not very handy to shoot there. And was a very special day, and I thought the power of the water and them disappearing into the mist was already strong, than to let them kiss.
That waterfall was also huge. If we would have stood underneath that, it would have crushed us. We would have died.
Well, let's give it up for these amazing people.
Thank you guys very much.